The universe lay silent, like an ancient, forgotten tomb. Riven Hale gripped the flight stick tightly inside the cockpit, his eyes fixed on the streaks of red light trailing relentlessly behind him. The warships of the Seralya, sharp and alive like biological spears, closed in at terrifying speed. "Collision warning," the ship's system repeated in a flat, emotionless voice. Riven clenched his jaw, yanking hard to veer into a plasma corridor between dark purple nebulae. But they would not let him escape. A beam of bioenergy pierced his shield, short-circuiting the navigation system. The ship buckled violently. Riven lost control. He caught a final glimpse of the planet below, a cold, ghostly world shrouded in bleak silver mist, before everything vanished into blackness. When Riven awoke, the sharp scent of iron and biological gas filled the small elliptical prison chamber. Thin veils of mist drifted like deadly ribbons in the air. His eyes slowly adjusted to the eerie green glow. His body was pinned down by silky yet unbreakable strands of organic cocooning. He pulled against them, but it was useless. Biometric sensors swept over his body in steady waves, like hunting tendrils searching for prey. Outside the transparent walls, tall figures moved gracefully in silence, their silhouettes sleek like predators. All were female, their forms flawless, their eyes cold as crystalline ice, their skin shimmering violet or silver blue. This was Seralya, the legendary warrior race, infamous for abducting men from other worlds to serve as genetic material. The cell door slid open with a hiss, sending a wave of cold air over Riven's skin. A tall figure stepped in, her boots echoing like thunder against the living bio floor. Clad in black and silver bio armor, every curve of her body exuded both elegance and lethal power. Her golden eyes, like twin moons, locked onto Riven's with an intensity that seemed to strip away every layer of defense. "Human," she spoke, her voice sharp and cold as a meteor blade. "You have trespassed into the sovereign territory of Seralya. Do you know the punishment for this crime?" Riven said nothing. He tensed his muscles, holding her gaze with defiance. His silence made the corner of the woman's mouth curve ever so slightly, a mixture of mockery and intrigue. "I am Nysera Velith, Supreme Commander of Seralya." The name fell like the unsheathing of a blade. She stepped closer until only centimeters separated them. Her breath, warm yet tinged with an intoxicating and dangerous scent, caressed his skin. Riven could feel strands of her soft silver hair brush lightly along his neck as she bent to examine the data interface attached to his left wrist. Fascinating genetic structure. Completely unprecedented. Your immune system is exceptionally resilient, rapid bioadaptation capability. Her golden eyes narrowed slightly. You will be the perfect genetic specimen of this generation. Riven's voice was low and steady. I am not anyone's specimen. Nysera froze. For the first time in her life, a specimen had dared speak to her like this. The edges of her lips twitched slightly, a hairline crack appearing in her cold demeanor. You are different, she murmured, her tone darkening, growing more dangerous. You have no idea where you are. Here, Seralya controls everything. You belong to us. Riven stared back into her eyes. A flicker of defiant fire sparked within the steel-gray depths of his gaze. No, I don't belong to anyone. The air in the chamber seemed to freeze. Their breaths mingled faintly within the swirling silver mist. Nysera's gloved hand slowly tightened around Riven's throat, applying just enough pressure to assert dominance, yet careful not to cause harm. The contradictory softness of the gesture made even Nysera hesitate. Each second dragged on like eternity. Riven felt the radiant heat from her body seep through the cold surface of her armor. An invisible current of energy, both threatening and irresistibly alluring, traveled down his spine. Nysera's gaze darkened ever so slightly. Abruptly she released him and stepped back, as though startled by her own loss of control. Don't think you can provoke my pity, human, she whispered, her eyes still locked on him. But beneath her voice, Riven detected the faintest, almost imperceptible trace of conflict, like a hairline fracture in her wall of icy perfection. "Take him to the reproductive research sector," Nysera commanded coldly, turning to leave, though her steps were noticeably slower than usual. Her long silver hair traced an almost hypnotic arc beneath the chamber's eerie green glow. As the door sealed behind her, Riven closed his eyes. He knew now he had encountered the most dangerous force in this galaxy. Not the Seralya Empire, but Nysera Velith herself. A being engineered for combat perfection, yet one who had hesitated when faced with the defiance in his eyes. This was the beginning of everything. The reproductive research chamber lay deep within the heart of Seralya's biocomplex, where glowing yellow-green energy columns pulse like blood vessels coursing through the planet's living veins. The air was thick with the sharp tang of bioresin and the dizzying haze of pheromonal stimulants. Riven was restrained inside a spherical examination pod, bound by living organic strands that wrapped around his wrists, ankles, and waist like sentient creatures. Though his body was trapped, Riven held his head high, refusing to show fear. The bioscan system activated with a soft hum, beams of pale blue light sweeping over his skin as if determined to extract every secret of humanity. Riven clenched his teeth, muscles tightening as he resisted the cold invasive energies attempting to penetrate every cell. The door slid open with a faint hiss. Soft but deliberate footsteps echoed closer. Riven didn't need to look to know who had arrived. The air filled instantly with a blend of honeysuckle fragrance and the cold, metallic scent of bioarmor. Nysera Velith appeared, her long, silken silver hair falling gently over her shoulders, her golden eyes still cold yet flickering with something unreadable. Slowly, she approached him, fingers brushing lightly over the biocontrol interface. The restraints tightened slightly around Riven's limbs, as if to remind him of just how powerless he was before her. "Incredible biological instincts," Nysera murmured, as she studied the data scrolling before her. "Do you know what the Council has decided?" She raised her gaze to meet his, her voice as cold as frozen steel. "They have chosen you. You will be entered into the highest tier of genetic breeding programs. You have no right to refuse." Riven gave a faint, dry laugh, sharp with defiance. "I'm not an animal in a cage. You can kill me, but you will never break me." Nysera froze. Once again, this human's unyielding spirit sent a ripple through the steel walls of her commander's heart. She stepped closer, so close that Riven could feel her warm breath, soft as feathers, yet making his pulse quicken against his will. Her sharp, golden gaze rested on the base of his neck, where his veins pulsed visibly beneath thin skin. "You are truly different," Nysera whispered, her lips tightening as though she were struggling with her own instincts. "You are unlike any specimen we've ever taken. You are not afraid of me. You defy me even when you know you cannot win." Her hand lifted slowly, not to strike, but drawn by an invisible pull neither could deny. Her long, slender fingers, cool yet silky soft, barely traced along his collarbone. The contact lasted mere seconds, yet it sent what felt like a bioelectric current through both their bodies. Riven shivered, not from fear, but from the strange mixture of danger and desire. They stood locked in place, staring into each other's eyes, neither moving. On one side stood the cold, proud commander of Seralya. On the other, the lone human pilot who had dared to challenge an empire with nothing but his dignity and will. Between them, something was slowly and fiercely awakening, something forbidden and utterly irresistible. Nysera exhaled deeply, withdrawing her hand. Her eyes darkened, casting a heavy shadow over the face of a woman who had just made a choice against everything her instincts demanded. "You complicate things far more than I ever expected, Riven Hale." For the first time she spoke his name, and it hung in the air like an unspoken confession both instantly understood. I will not allow the council to touch you, at least not yet. She turned and walked away, but this time her normally confident steps were heavier, as if each step weighed her down in a silent struggle against her own heart. As the heavy door slammed shut, Riven leaned his head back against the cold wall of the pod, eyes lingering where she had disappeared. A faint, knowing smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. For the first time, he realized this battle might not only be about survival or freedom, but about winning the heart of the proudest, most unreachable alien woman in the galaxy. The Supreme Command Center of Seralya was a masterpiece of both biotechnology and the art of war. The sweeping bio-arched ceilings twisted like enormous tendrils, illuminated by flickering violet-blue light that cast long shadows of the female warriors standing motionless, statuesque at their posts. Nysera stood before a floating data panel, her golden eyes darkening as she read the classified orders from the High Council. Specimen 4571, human. Omega-level breeding protocol approved. Harvest to begin in 12 hours. Nysera's hand clenched tightly, the slender veins on her silver-hued forearm rising beneath her skin. A cold wave surged through her entire body. She knew exactly what Omega Protocol meant. Riven would be destroyed in the brutal process of forced genetic extraction. It would be a slow, painful, dehumanizing death. She closed her eyes. Riven's face appeared vividly in her mind. The defiant steel-gray eyes, the fiery breath when they had stood face to face, the human skin that had resisted everything Seralya's biopressures could inflict. He was the first ever to shake her resolve. A sound interrupted her from behind. Nysera turned, her expression instantly freezing over again. It was Volantra, her most trusted officer, and the Council's unwavering enforcer. Commander Velith, Volantra bowed respectfully. I am here to claim Subject 4571 and prepare him for Omega Protocol. Nysera stepped toward Volantra until only a few strides separated them. No. Her voice sliced like a plasma blade. I've ordered a delay. The specimen is still under evaluation. Volantra frowned slightly, suspicion flashing behind her deep violet eyes. The Council's command is absolute, Commander. Nysera held her gaze unflinching. Are you questioning my authority? The room fell into a deadly silence. At last, Volantra bowed stiffly. As you command. As Volantra departed, Nysera turned to the massive window, gazing out across the distant horizon, where Seralya's biotowers twisted like colossal sleeping beasts beneath the silvery mist. A part of her screamed to obey, to fulfill her duty. But another part, softer and fragile, whispered insistently to throw it all away and save the one man who had pierced her frozen heart for the first time in centuries. The research chamber door opened with a soft hiss. Riven was escorted in, bound by shimmering organic tendrils. His head remained high, his gaze unwavering, not an ounce of fear visible. Nysera approached slowly, her golden eyes burning as if their heat alone could sear his skin. One hand, gentle yet commanding, lifted his chin to meet her eyes directly. Do you know why I've come to you, Riven Hale? She asked, her voice lowering with weighty intensity. Riven didn't blink. I'm guessing you're here to end it. Nysera slowly shook her head, silver hair cascading down like flowing liquid metal. You should hate me. You should fear me, but you still look at me like this. Riven's expression softened, his voice dropping to a husky whisper. Because I've never met anyone so strong, yet so alone. Nysera froze. No one had ever dared speak such words to her, not soldiers, not council elders, certainly not captives. A strange warmth surged from her chest outward, flooding her entire body. A long moment passed. They stood close, breaths mingling, eyes locked with magnetic intensity. Nysera's hands gripped Riven's shoulders, not to threaten, but in agonizing inner conflict. She knew her decision could mean execution, but if she let go, she would lose the only person who had ever faced her as an equal. I can't, she whispered brokenly. I can't hand you over to the council, but if I keep you, I betray everything. Riven gently reached for her hand, his eyes softening further. I'd rather die than be treated like a thing, but if you give me even the smallest chance, I won't leave you. Nysera's golden eyes trembled. For the first time, the perfect embodiment of Seralya's power and control felt her heart beating for an outsider. She nodded faintly, her lips parting as if to speak more, but no words came. Tonight, Nysera whispered at his ear, her breath hot and unsteady. I will get you out of here, but you must trust me completely. Riven gave the smallest nod, saying nothing. In his eyes, the faint spark of hope ignited brighter than ever before. And so, the rebellion against the Empire had begun, born from the heart of the coldest warrior Seralya had ever known. Night on Seralya was mercilessly cold. The towering biospires, once majestic, looked like eerie living spears, now flickered weakly beneath the dense veil of silver mist. A silent biotic wind slithered through the twisted organic corridors like blood coursing through the veins of a sleeping beast. At the heart of the research center, security was at maximum lockdown. No one suspected that the betrayer would be the Supreme Commander herself. Nysera moved like a living shadow, her sleek black bioarmor streaked with silver veins that pulsed faintly, as if alive, emitting no sound with her every step. Her heartbeat pounded violently inside her chest, as if each beat marked the beginning of a rebellion with no way back. Riven waited inside an auxiliary isolation chamber, his wrists and ankles still raw with marks from the living cocoon restraints. As the door opened, he froze. Nysera stepped through like a dark phantom, her golden eyes blazing under her hood, yet her parted lips betrayed an unfamiliar flicker of deep fear. Quickly, she whispered, we don't have much time. They darted through spiraling bio hallways, pale blue light reflecting off Nysera's silver-violet skin, casting her in an almost ethereal glow. Each time Riven staggered from his wounds, Nysera's strong yet gentle hand would grasp his, pulling him closer to her side. Her touch was both firm and unexpectedly soft, and neither of them could deny the strange warmth that spread every time they made contact. Suddenly, a shrieking alarm split the stillness like the cry of some ancient beast. From cracks in the walls, Seralya's elite sentries spilled forth, their glossy bio-armor glinting under red sensor lights that burned like the fires of hell. Traitor detected. Primary target, Supreme Commander Nysera Velith. Secondary target, Specimen 4571. Termination authorized immediately. Nysera gripped Riven's hand tighter, dragging him into a hidden passage behind a wall of organic biofluid. Run, she hissed, casting aside her pride for the first time to do what she now knew was right. Footsteps thundered from all directions, echoing like war drums closing in. They raced across narrow bio-bridges suspended over bottomless black chasms, where even a single misstep meant instant death. Suddenly, Riven slipped. Nysera spun around with inhuman speed, her strong arms locking around his. Her golden eyes flared brightly in the darkness. I will not let you fall, Riven Hale. For the first time, Riven saw that look. Not the gaze of a commander, nor an enforcer, but of a woman desperately trying to protect someone she could not bear to lose. They ran on, breathing ragged, sweat mixing between them under their cold bio-armor. Nysera's breathing came fast and shallow, her lips parting near his neck as she tugged him out of the path of a deadly plasma blade swung by a pursuing sentry. The pair plunged into an ancient bio-cavern, the last escape route leading to the city's outer edge. No lights remained, only faintly pulsing biotic veins offering just enough to see. Inside the suffocating darkness, they stopped to catch their breath. They stood so close that only a thin sliver of space separated them. Riven placed his hand lightly on Nysera's shoulder, feeling the heat of her body radiating through the living armor. You could have killed me the moment we met, Riven whispered. Why risk everything to save me? Nysera didn't answer at once. Instead, she pressed her palm flat against his chest, directly over the hammering beat of his heart. Because I couldn't watch the one thing that makes me feel alive disappear right in front of me. The space between them thickened. The outside world seemed to vanish. Only the sound of beating hearts and rapid breaths remained. 1 second, then 2. Riven's fingers brushed against Nysera's cheek. Her skin was cool as crystal, yet trembled faintly under his touch. Nysera tilted her head ever so slightly, her lips parting as if to meet his, trembling as the distance between them shrank to a single breath. Before it could happen, the clash of metal on metal echoed from somewhere nearby. Both froze instantly, their gazes snapping back to hardened focus. "Come," Nysera whispered, tightening her grip on Riven's hand like a vow that could never be broken. "I will get you out of this nightmare." Together, they vanished once more into the endless darkness, hunted by an entire empire. They raced through the ancient biolabyrinth, leaving behind the wailing alarms and pounding footsteps of those who hunted them. At last, deep within a valley of eternal frost and drifting silver mist, Nysera found a place even the Empire had long since forgotten, an abandoned bio-research station buried beneath centuries of ice. The bio door groaned open, revealing a vast, dark chamber with towering vaulted ceilings and dead bio-vines hanging like the skeletal remains of a lost age. "We are safe. For now," Nysera exhaled, finally releasing Riven's hand after hours of relentless flight. Dim green light flickered from damaged energy crystals, casting eerie shadows across Riven's dust and sweat-streaked ash-gray skin. Riven collapsed against the organic wall, breathing heavily. He watched as Nysera pulled back her hood, soft silver hair falling loosely over her shoulders, dampened slightly by the cold night air. She gazed back at him, her golden eyes no longer cold, but heavy with unspoken worry and something deeper, something gentler. Neither spoke. Only the sound of their heartbeats and ragged breaths filled the oppressive stillness. Riven winced as a thin trail of blood trickled from his side wound. Instantly, Nysera knelt beside him, strong yet delicate fingers brushing his clothing aside to reveal the deep gash streaking across his bronzed Terran skin. "You're bleeding," she murmured, her voice low, tinged with an unfamiliar edge of concern. "It's just a scratch." Riven gave a weak grin, never looking away from her face. Nysera did not reply. Silently, she retrieved a small bioregeneration vial from her belt and squeezed shimmering teal liquid onto the wound. The coolness made Riven shiver slightly, but what truly unsettled him was the sensation of her long, slender fingers grazing softly along his bare skin, gentle, careful, and impossible to resist. In that instant, both realized the truth they had ignored for far too long. The tension from every glance, every breathless moment of escape, every accidental touch came crashing to the surface in an undeniable wave. Riven caught her wrist gently, his gaze burning yet tender. "You don't have to do this. You risked everything for me." Nysera did not pull away. Instead, she sank down beside him, even closer. "Not for you. For myself," she whispered, her voice low and husky, unable to hide the overwhelming desire she had suppressed for too long. Riven tilted his head, his lips hovering less than a breath away from hers. An almost electric pulse of energy arced invisibly between them, locking their gazes. Nysera's breathing quickened, her soft lips trembling ever so slightly. No more words were needed. Riven closed the distance, his lips brushing against hers tentatively, as if testing the final boundary. Nysera stiffened momentarily, then surrendered completely, responding with all the passionate intensity she had held back for so long. They pressed tightly together beneath the flickering green light as their bio-armor loosened and shed itself like a cocoon, releasing the living forms inside. Nysera's soft alien skin met Riven's hot human flesh, and the barriers between two species dissolved in the freezing night of Seralya. Riven's fingers traced the elegant line of her back, feeling the rhythm of her pulse and the delicate tremble of every breath. Nysera wound her arms tightly around his neck, drawing him impossibly closer, as if afraid he might vanish at any second. Words became meaningless. Only the merging of two souls, two bodies, completely different yet profoundly connected, remained. Their kiss deepened into eternity, carrying them through the long Seralyan night in a symphony of breathless gasps and racing heartbeats. As the moment finally eased, Nysera rested her head against Riven's shoulder, her breathing soft once more. "We can never go back," she whispered. Riven kissed her forehead softly, whispering back, "I don't want to, as long as I have you." For the first time in centuries, the Supreme Commander of Seralya truly smiled, a smile meant only for the one man who had broken through the impenetrable walls around her heart. On Seralya, dawn held no warmth like on Earth. Instead, a cold silver mist drifted low across the landscape like the wandering souls of the lost. In the distance, the roar of bioengines shattered the still air. Nysera's eyes snapped open at the sound. She instinctively clutched her hand over Riven's chest, still warm beside her after the night they had truly become one. The fragile illusion of safety had lasted only hours. She knew the Council had tracked them. Riven awoke just as quickly, the survival instincts of a Terran pilot never allowing him to rest fully. Peering through a crack in the cavern wall, he spotted red beams sweeping methodically across the sky. Seralya's hunting parties were scanning every inch of terrain. "They're here," Nysera whispered grimly. There was no time for tenderness or regret. They quickly pulled their bio-armor back on. One last lingering gaze passed between them. Riven gripped her hand firmly, eyes blazing with resolve. "I'm not leaving you." They burst from the ruins of the ancient recent research station into a forest of towering biocrystals, where shifting light cast warped, ghost-like shadows. Behind them, the sound of pounding footfalls and the heavy beat of bio-wings grew steadily closer. Suddenly, a squad of Seralyan soldiers blocked their path. At the front stood Volantra, the Council's most loyal enforcer, her violet eyes sharp as plasma blades. "Nysera Velith." Volantra's voice thundered like a storm. "You are charged with treason and aiding an intruder. Surrender the specimen and yourself. You still have a chance at mercy." Nysera stepped forward, her back straight as the legendary warrior she once was. "If you want me, Volantra, you'll have to step over my corpse." Volantra's frown deepened. "Don't make me do this. You have no choice." Nysera's voice was cold steel as her hand activated the plasma blade that extended smoothly from her gauntlet. The battle erupted in an instant. Blades clashed with a deafening screech, bursts of energy scattering like fireworks across the black night. Nysera fought like a phantom, her movements graceful and lethal, each strike perfectly aimed to disable and survive. Riven assisted from behind, tossing biogrenades salvaged from the research station. The Seralyan soldiers, formidable as they were, had not expected to face a Terran human and their own Supreme Commander fighting side by side. Fall back, Volantra cried as their ranks crumbled. The violet blood of fallen Seralyans stained the frozen ground. Nysera gasped for breath, her armor torn and slashed in several places, her silver-violet skin revealed beneath, leaking small rivulets of blood. Riven rushed to her side, catching her as she staggered. "You're hurt." Nysera offered him a faint, exhausted smile. "I'm still alive, thanks to you." In the distance, the guttural howls of incoming pursuit ships echoed. The Council had mobilized every remaining asset. "We can't keep running forever," Riven said, scanning their bleak surroundings. Nysera only nodded, a strange flicker of hope glinting in her golden eyes. "There's one place left, the ancient gateway. If we can reach it, nothing and no one will be able to follow." "Then take me there." Riven clasped her hand without hesitation. Together they plunged once more into the swirling silver mist, hunted by an empire but refusing to let go of each other, as though the slightest separation might shatter their fragile escape forever. Cold winds howled through the ice chasms, racing past ancient biotic pillars and carrying with them the echoes of a forgotten age. Before them stood the ancient gateway, a colossal spiral of living bioarchitecture, pulsing faintly like the weak breath of some dying titan. It was the last remnant of Seralya's golden age, long before the council had seized power and twisted everything into instruments of war and genetic conquest. According to legend, those who passed through it would leave the physical realm, vanishing from every tracking system, beyond the reach of any empire. Nysera squeezed Riven's hand tightly as they approached. Her silver hair whipped wildly in the freezing wind, her golden eyes locked onto his, burning with rare tenderness and unwavering determination. "From this moment, if we cross," she whispered, "I will no longer be commander, no longer Seralya. I will be only Nysera, yours alone." Riven cupped her face with both hands, his fingers tracing the soft lines of her jaw. "And I'll be only Riven, the man you risked everything for, the man who will protect you for the rest of his life." The shriek of bioengines tore through the silence behind them. High above, Seralyan spear-shaped warships emerged from the mist, crimson targeting beams slicing through the night like blades. "They're here," Nysera said softly, but her grip on Riven's hand never wavered. Volantra appeared with the last of the council's soldiers, her eyes burning with fury and pain. "Nysera Velith, stop. You can still return. We will spare you if you surrender the specimen." Nysera turned slowly, silver hair cascading like falling snow. Her voice rang out, proud and resolute. "I will not return. They call me traitor, but I have finally found my true self." Riven pulled her close and whispered urgently, "Come on." Together they sprinted toward the ancient gateway. Plasma bolts ripped through the air around them, slicing the darkness. Their hearts pounded wildly as the distance closed to only a few steps. A blast of plasma grazed Nysera's shoulder, leaving a charred black scar across her bioarmor. Riven instinctively wrapped his arm around her to shield her. "Just a few more steps. We're almost there." Hand in hand, they plunged into the swirling light of the gateway. A deafening explosion erupted behind them. The world dissolved into a blinding white vortex, swallowing everything. When they awoke, a completely different sky stretched overhead. They stood on an untouched world of towering crystalline cliffs, endless lush forests, and cascading waterfalls glowing faintly under twin moons. There were no ships, no soldiers, no Seralya. Nysera stood in stunned silence, her golden eyes wide with wonder. We're free." Riven smiled softly, squeezing her hand. "We've made a world of our own." They walked forward into the glowing alien forest, knowing there would be no others, that they would start again from nothing, but they had each other. The forbidden love between a Seralyan warrior and a Terran man, something the galaxy deemed impossible, had found freedom in a universe without borders. Her species wanted my body, but she wanted my heart.